Hey YouTube. Anybody give me a sound check, please? Testing. 1, 2, 3. May have to wait a bit for people to get in. There's welcome Bob Kaler's Fish Hobby. Welcome Kenneth Eli. Welcome Justin Shepard. Welcome Daryl Dimer. Awesome. I'm sure some of you may have noticed that last week I was not here broadcasting my live stream, but I was doing the live stream at AE that Flip Aquatics Rob ran, and there didn't seem to be very many mods that were handy. Nisi and the regular mods all seemed to be busy doing other things, so I just went ahead and spent my hour and 3.5 hours more or 4 hours more there working that live stream. So I didn't really mention that I wasn't going to stream. It just kind of happened that 6-hour live stream was going on. Hey Corona Ken, welcome to the stream, man. What's up with you guys? I'm sure some of you went to AE. I'd love to hear your takes on it. As I spent all of my money going to Peru this year and more, I couldn't really afford to go to AE, and the fact that it's in New Jersey just kind of made it an easier decision. Chicago's close enough I can drive, but AE in New Jersey means getting on a plane, and I've had about enough of planes for this year. 2 14-hour flights coming and going from Peru just about did me in. It's just not something I wanted to do. I did go to New Jersey. Corona Ken got to meet me there, but it was on the way home from Peru. Sounds like I got the flu. I don't think so. Knock on wood. But I did notice that the reason I'm a little bit later than normally. Normally I start about 3:30, but I do that because I never know when XSplit is going to update, and XSplit updated this time, so I'm 18 minutes late getting started. And every time XSplit updates, it seems like something else snafus. I noticed this time I was getting a lot of banding in my Logitech 1080p webcam. So what's up, Dang Tanks? Welcome to the stream, man. Oh, Bob's saying sounds like a lot got the flu. Yes, it does sound like something was going around. Daryl Dimer says, I got lucky I didn't catch a cold or anything at AE. Corona Ken says, I loved AE 2018. Enjoyed meeting so many YouTubers and some NJS people I know. Awesome. That's the beauty of a thing like AE, is the people that are there. I mean, there's always gorgeous fish to look at. There's always great aquascaping and shrimp competitions and cichlid competitions to look at. But the most, and wonderful talk givers. I saw Ted Judy was one of the people giving talks, and I would have loved to have seen Ted Judy. I really admire him. I admire the way he does things, and I would have enjoyed seeing him. Hey, Valley Fish, welcome to the stream. Um, yeah, it did sound like a lot of people. Lucas seems to have it, and several other people seem to have gotten something at AE this year. Um, Someone had a runny nose and was touching things, and other people touched them as well. Lucas is pretty OCD, so I'm surprised he managed to catch anything. He must not have just been aware at the time. He must have had too many things going on. But anyway, AE is about the people. It's about, hey, Big E's, welcome to the stream, man. It's about meeting other hobbyists that are just as passionate for this hobby as you are, and that's always a remarkable experience. A lot of us spend a long time. Daryl Dimer's dropping names. Star Packed, I was sitting next to the Shrimp King at dinner. Awesome. Chronokin says, I thought the prices were pretty reasonable too. $5 for a half pound of algae wafers. If they're good algae wafers with a lot of spirulina in them, then yeah, that is a decent price. Yes, you get to rub shoulders with some wonderful people. Yeah, I've really enjoyed, Daryl's talking about Chris Lukup, of course, the Shrimp King. And I have really enjoyed Chris Lukup in the various and sundry videos that I have seen of him on YouTube and on Facebook. He really seems to have a easygoing way about him. He's a real person as opposed to someone who's not a real person when you meet them in real life. I admire him a lot. He was at AE in Chicago also when I was there last. So I didn't really get a chance to personally meet him, but I got to, you know, when I was looking at the shrimp stuff, I got to spend a little time viewing his interactions with other people. He seemed to be mostly interacting with the breeders that had brought shrimps to the show at AE that time, but he seems to have realized that the fish fam on YouTube is a thing, and that he is starting to connect. What is it? Dinero, however you say that name of the company, seems to be. Hey Pam, welcome to the stream. Seems to be reaching out to a lot of fish fam people, and I know Corey and Corvus and Jimmy have made a connection with that company, and so they've made a connection with Chris Lukup as well. And it's really good to see hobby producers, people that make things that we use in our hobby, connecting with the people themselves in the hobby, and it makes for a better relationship in the sense of those people telling those companies what they like and what they don't like, and there is an immediate response, you know, from the companies themselves. They get a chance to get real input from a different new set of people that use their products or try their products and tell them what they like and don't like. So I think that that's probably a really good relationship, the Fish Fam and Dinero and Chris Lukup and those people. Has anybody got any topics? I mean, I'd love to hear you guys ramble on about AE if you have such to say. Once again, I am bereft of axes to grind. I do have one piece of news that's heartening to me, that most of you know that we had a shipping problem with the fish coming back from Peru. And while Dean and Corey don't seem to be too concerned about being recompensated in the sense of getting fish, I know I myself have been very interested in it, and I think Joseph is as well, but I'm not sure. Joseph basically said that he didn't want any fish, that he wasn't going to take any home. But I think once he got done helping collect them, he began to realize that maybe he did want some of those fish, and so he got a bunch of the fish too. Um, oh, come on, brain. Anyway, Michael Barber from Go Wild Peru has been. We let Dean be our point man on the whole. Dean Tweedale be our point man on the whole issue of the shipping and the fish deaths, and basically he and Michael Barber hashed it out, and Michael Barber has offered to ship me, quote, quote, some fish. He has gone down there, and he may still be there right now, but I'm thinking he's probably coming back pretty soon. He went down for November for something, and he is going to bring me some fish back as a way of apology or making up for the losses that we suffered. I mean, there's really nothing that can be done. It's basically a situation where the shipper screwed us all, you know, and we just basically lost our fish due to the really bad shipping situation. And Michael has offered. Now, he says no promises, and I understand, yeah, Michael is a stand-up guy, Coronakin, and I'm really happy too. And nothing may come of it. He may not get fish. He may not. I know they weren't going to go collecting in a very wide area, but they were not going to go to the mountains again and collect the gold green plecos that we all wanted so much, that I got one of that promptly died because of gill burn, suffered in, you know, super ammonia water. But he has offered to ship some fish to me. Now, I don't know how he is going to. They have gotten a new shipper, and he may be wanting to try that new shipper out to see how it works, to see how it goes, to see if it's up to their standards. And I'm not sure whether he's going to ship a box to himself or whether he's going to put a bag of 7 fish in his luggage and use the certificate to bring 7 fish into the country. There are certificates that you can use to bring a small number of fish into the country, and although I think it gets mixed results. Sometimes the customs take them away from you, and sometimes they let them go through. I don't know what causes that or why it works out that way. But anyway, it may just be 7 fish that he brings into the country himself, or he may ship me a box. I just really don't know. But they will ship to him because he has the paperwork to get them in the country, and I do not. And being a trans-shipper, having the paperwork to go pick up stuff from out of the country at the airport is pretty expensive, in the $800, $900, $1,200 range. Plus then you have to pay on each box. You have to pay customs, have to pay trans-shipper fees. You have to pay all kinds of stuff. The one box that I got shipped in cost me about $300. So it's not a cheap process to ship a box of fish back from another country. And I know that Dean Tweedale spent way more than what I gave, what it cost me to get them into the country finally, or to get them out of the customs finally, and so it's just going to be something for the future. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen. Hey, Evan, welcome to the stream, man. I've been following your exploits closely, man. I haven't been commenting very much lately. The Pacers are playing again, so I'm catching stuff as it goes by. I'm watching football for my fantasy football team, and I'm, of course, watching my Pacers every chance I get. So basketball season started again, so it cuts into my viewing time on YouTube a lot. So if some of you have been missing my comments on your videos or think that I'm not watching, I may be watching, but it may just be a situation where I am so busy playing my games and watching my Pacers and keeping up with my fantasy football team. This is that time of year. Hey, Reefs Tanks, welcome to the stream. That sometimes it just slows down my commenting ability. And if you wonder whether I'm going to be watching your stream or not, you can pretty much follow it by if the Pacers are playing or if there's a football game on. Those two things, I'm more than likely spending time watching those sports. But IFG, you've gotten some really interesting fish here lately. I'm pretty jelly. I'm still worried about them in that pond outside, but so far so good. I guess you've only lost the knife fish when it got cold. Other news on the home front. My fish seem to be doing pretty well. Our rainbows, which are supposed to be goiter rivers, are getting big enough to kind of start showing their colors. They're in the 2-inch range now. And these are the surprise fry that we got out of my wife dumping some moss in our quarantine tank to get it out of the 75, and lo and behold, it was full of rainbow eggs, and they hatched, and we're still not sure. Hey, Kevin Hyatt, welcome to the stream, man. And hey, Cobwebs Caverns, welcome to the stream. We're still not sure whether they are hybrids. We did have a turquoise rainbow and a bronze rainbow in the tank at that time, along with a bunch of older goiter rivers. So we're not really sure exactly what we've got on our hands. You know, it's not like I'm going to sell them or anything. So if they're hybrids, we'll just keep them and let them go. I'm not a big fan of hybrids. I'm not a big fan of keeping hybrid fish, but it was so remarkable, you know, having them make it and surprise us in the quarantine tank with a cloud of fry. I guess we must have 15 or 20, and I will just keep them. I won't try to get them to breed. I won't work at trying to get them to breed if they're hybrids. We picked up 6 more dwarf neon rainbows from Lucas when we went down to visit Lucas, and those are in the tank also. And we'll just let them. Cobweb Caverns says, sad news to report from my neck of the woods. Since I last was about to chat on the stream, 2 of the 5 live fish stores in my city have closed down. That is sad news, Cobweb Cavern. It's probably a commentary on us being able to order stuff online and a lot of people choosing to order stuff online because of cheaper prices and not supporting a local fish store. You know, I'm as irritated and unhappy with big box stores as anyone because of the quality of the fish they keep, because of their methodology, because of their, you know, sales. But I still want to support them, because if I have a heater go out in the middle of winter, I don't want to have to drive 50 miles or get online and wait 3 days. Hey, Racing's Natural Aquariums, welcome to the stream, man. It's good to see you back around. I noticed you the other night on Lucas's stream and somebody's stream before that, and I'm glad to see you back around. I don't... When you have an emergency in your fish room and you don't have what you need on hand to ameliorate the emergency, then a big box store is your best friend if they are close by and open. So as much as I rail against them, I also think that we should all support them. And the same goes for your local fish store. If you've got a local fish store that has been around for a long time, that has people that are really excellent working there, Cobweb Cavern says, I agree sadly, Dwayne. I try not to buy from online at all and only buy from the smaller shops and not Pets at Home. Our version of your PetSmarts, I think. Yeah, we've got several different types. But as badly as I don't like them, I'm mighty glad they're there when I need them. I had a heater go out not too long ago. And I know the heater that I went and bought there is probably not the best in the world, but within a year I'm probably going to be watching it closely to make sure it doesn't shatter and electrocute my fish or just go out and leave them icy cold. But you need to, you know, it's just like a restaurant. A restaurant moves into town and you go there and you just love it. You just love the food, you love the ambiance, you love the atmosphere, you love the pricing. You better keep going to that restaurant and give them steady business or electrocute me. Yeah, right, Racing. You better go to that restaurant and keep them open, because if you don't, they're not going to be there for you to enjoy anymore. If you just go once and think, wow, it's so great having that nice restaurant around, and wait 6 months before you go again, chances are it's not going to be there when you go back, because if everyone acts like that and no one gives them steady business, then we're really in trouble. So, and Kevin shows the other side of the coin. We only have big chain stores in my town. I get almost all my stuff online. There are a lot of things that you cannot get from a big box store. They're just not going to carry it, you know, unless it's like a contaminant or they just get a big order. I picked up some reed tetras at my local big box store. They didn't know what they were, and they sold them to me as something else for pennies on the dollar compared to what I would have paid if I had bought them from Wet Spot. If I'd have bought them from Wet Spot and had them ordered in, I would have paid $3 or $4 a piece for those fish. I got them for $1.49 at my local big box store because they didn't know what they had. They were reed tetras, and they don't know what reed tetras are. As far as they were concerned, they were head and tail light tetras or something else, something inexpensive. So I snapped them up, and I told the girl, I said, you don't know what these are. It was a guy, I'm sorry. I said, you don't know what these are, do you? And she kind of looked at me, or he kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? And I said, I know what they are, and I know what they're worth, and I keep them. So I got them cheap. And I told them that I was getting them cheap, and that I wasn't going to tell them what they were, because they weren't doing the work needed to understand what they had brought in. Their people working there had no idea. They just go through the motions. But I knew what they were, so I bought them. So sometimes you can luck out. Cobweb Cavern says, I will buy livestock from the big box store for the same reason. Just got 18 Emperor Tetras for £1 per fish, or €1 per fish. Less than $1 a fish. Yeah. Yeah, Racing, you're right. They do prey on novices. They prey on people that have never kept fish before. They go in there and they con them into buying 30 fish and a 55-gallon tank, and send them home with all the equipment and all the fish. And of course, they don't know anything about water. Hey, VB23, welcome to the stream. So yes, if you are lucky enough to have a local fish store, an LFS, that has excellent people working there, that really know fish keeping, that really have the things that you need to get at the time when you really need them, that order in other than normal fish, that you can go in and ooh and ah and look in the tanks and see something that you really like. BB23 got his red Aquarium Co-op shirt, and it's signed and he's pumped. Congrats to you. I got 4 of them at AE 2017, and I got a plethora of people to sign them. I got a 4X, which is way too big, but I told Corey, yeah, I'll take a 4X, because they shrink when you wash them, and then it's a 3X. And that's still too big, but I like having overly large shirts sometimes. But I got Amanda from Racing. I'm sorry, I spent my money going to Peru. My money is in these pictures that you're looking at in the background. That was a little over 5, probably 6 grand by the time the fish got here. So that was way more money than I would have spent flying to AE, but it was so much money. I'm on a fixed income. Anyway, I got Amanda to sign, Rob's wife, to sign her name across the back of that 4X red t-shirt in gold pen, and then inside of the D of her name, I got Rob to sign his in black in little tiny letters. So that was my favorite take home from AE last year. Cobweb says, I have about 8 big box stores and 6 independent shops within a 25-mile radius. Well, that's awesome, Cobwebs. And yeah, the big box stores are not so much about fish for me, although I do look. I go to look and see how sick the fish are. I go to see what fish they've got. And PB23 says, if I go, I'm sleeping in my car. Yeah, I'm too old for that. I have to get a room. I got to have a bed to sleep in. Um, it's just really critical in this day and age for us to support the things we like, and for that matter to not support the things we don't like. But if you've got a really great local fish store, you better be going a couple of times a month and buying something, you know. BB23 is still teasing me about his grindle worms going strong. I'm very happy for you, man. I've just had trouble doing it. And Daryl says, was worth it though. So many wonderful people were there. Yeah. And there were a lot of great speakers too. I hope you guys caught some of the speakers. That was one of the best things for me. I kind of missed the room sales at AE. I'm used to going to fish conventions, staying in the nearby hotel or the hotel in which the convention is, and having 4 or 5 floors of rooms with signs on the doors outside showing what they sell inside, and being able to walk room to room and look at what people have brought, because that's what people do to a lot of Cobweb Cavern is asking me, are we still getting our weekly fix from the big book of 500 tips? And the truth is that I have not done that in a while, but of course, if I can do this with this frozen shoulder and not cause a major disaster, which may happen. Well, it wasn't too disastrous. I still have the book here handy. I have the book here handy because I use it. I spend time looking at this. So yes, since Cobweb Caverns asks, let's do another shot from here. When I do this, I need to make this screen bigger so you can actually see. Blah! This is the book that Cobweb Caverns is talking about. It's 500 ways to be a better freshwater fish keeper. And I've, you know, it's plagiarism for me to actually read from the book. But as you all know, I am a large proponent of buying books about fish keeping. And so let's do another one. Yeah, I don't want to do aquascaping. Better compatibility. This is page 94, 369. Clown loaches need their own kind around them. Some fish need the company of their own kind or they never seem to thrive. It is not humane to purchase a single clown loach or Corydoras for just this reason. They may not be true school fish, but they are certainly gregarious and will pine without others of their species, even though they may never spawn in the aquarium. And that's an interesting little blurb. One of the reasons why I've been doing that is to give me something to talk about. And this, of course, gives me massive topic to talk about, which is a lot of people like to do community aquariums where they keep a plethora of different kinds of fish. Hey, honey. I'm doing my live stream, doll. Did you get it cleaned?
Sort of.
Okay. I'll be done here in 30 minutes or so. My wife just got home. Um, it's one of my, it's not a pet peeve, but one of the things that always causes me distress is when I see a group of fish in the same tank that are not from the same regions. It's, to me, fish, through their body language, through their activities, through their flaring of their fins, through their actions towards one another, speak a certain language. And I am of the firm belief that fish that are not from near regions, wow, you can buy it for a penny plus postage. Yeah, I'd really recommend this book. It's really an excellent little book. They've gathered together a group of fish keeping experts, and they all give different tips. I personally believe, and this is just from my own anecdotal experience, this is not from any research, not from any scientific experimenting that I have seen about, that fish that do not speak the same languages, i.e., are from very far apart areas, like an Asian fish with an African fish, or an African fish with a South American fish. You know, a lot of times we put an African catfish in with a bunch of South Americans just because that's how it works out. And while that's not what I would call a great thing to do, I mean, I understand, believe me. You can only have so many tanks, and sometimes you just spur of the moment impulse buy a fish because it's so great or it's such a great deal, and you don't have any place to put it where it really matches up perfectly. I understand that. I'm not arguing against that. But that fish will have a more difficult time with those South Americans, because those big South American cichlids are going to send messages to that catfish to not do what it is doing, and it will not receive that message properly until it is struck and hit. Any fish will flare, will show signs of anger or territorial displays towards another fish. But that African catfish will not receive the message as well as a South American catfish would. That South American catfish is going to watch that cichlid doing its territorial display, its breeding display, its protecting fry display, and it's going to understand immediately that it should not be in that area and go find someplace to hide. But that African catfish will not understand that until that cichlid hits it really hard to explain the situation even more clearly. Now, that's not to say that South American catfish don't get hit by breeding South American cichlids sometimes. They do. But it is incumbent on us as fish keepers to try to give our fish the best fighting chance that we can. And one of the ways that I think, and this is personal, this is not, anything on anybody else, is to put similar types of fish that, in my mind, speak the same language together in a tank, so that everybody understands, at least they got a shot at understanding about what's going to happen to them if they go into a certain area, or if a certain pair of fish is holding 3/4 of the tank hostage because they're going to breed. Um, in a tank of like fish, you will find that when a pair of large cichlids squares off to breed, that all the other fish in the tank that speak that language are going to be on the far wall of the other end of the tank. They will get as far away from that pair as possible because they understand what's going to happen if they drift into that area where those fish are breeding, or where those fish are keeping fry, or where those fish are just territorially marking the tank, that you will go no further than this point. And it just seems to me that it's incumbent on us as fish keepers to try to give our fish the best fighting chance. Now you might say, well, then you need to get all those other South Americans out of that tank, and that's a good point at some point. But you never know when that's going to happen. If you're raising up 6 South American cichlids hoping to get a pair, and suddenly 2 of them pair up, you're going to come home and find all those other fish in the tank slammed against the other far wall. And sometimes, you've got another place to put them, and you should have another place to put them. And sometimes you bag them up and take the rest of them back to the store because you've got your pair and you don't really have room for those others. But that's what happens when fish speak the same language. And people will laugh at me for saying that, but it's just my experience over a long period of fish keeping that that's what goes on. Now, that's not to say that you can't have some perfect matches otherwise. If you've got 5 or 6 really large clown loaches in a tank, then you might get away with a bicker. You might get away with an African catfish. One, because those clown loaches aren't going to be a bit afraid of anything else. But that African catfish may well get spined. Clown loaches have spines. And when they get this big, those spines are that long. And they use them. And if you got to keep an eye on your fish that aren't speaking the same language, because they're likely to get hurt. But sometimes it works out. It's just like a beta sorority. A lot of times they kill each other, and a lot of times they won't. It's up to the fish keeper, if they want to try that, to observe their fish closely, understand how the fish interact normally, and then understand when something goes south. And that's always been one of my, it's not a pet peeve, it's just a belief that I have about fish keeping, where I just really feel like it's a truism. I'm going to tell you that from my experience, I believe that wholeheartedly. And a lot of people will tell you that's bunk, that has nothing to do with reality, but it is my personal experience that fish from a generalized same area, fish from the same river, even if the river's really long, they meet occasionally, even if there's falls in the way, or those fish have grown up accustomed to the way that other species talk to them. That other species say, I'm going to eat you, or that other species say, you're in my breeding range and I'm going to kill you if you don't get out of it, or they say, this is my territory and you can't come any closer without expecting me to hit you. So It's just an experience on my part, and I'll grant you that my experience is much greater in South Americans than it is in Africans or Asians. But I've kept a lot of Africans and Asians too over the years. All right, enough for me ranting about 500 ways to be a better freshwater fish keeper. I really recommend that you spend some time in a bookseller, in a library, in a online looking at. If you can get that book for $1 and $5 shipping, you'll never make a better purchase than that. You know, a penny is amazing price. Hey, B Stag, welcome to the stream. B Stag, it looked like you were having fun at AE again this year. Did you get a cold or the flu like a bunch of the other people did? I've always been a proponent of books. I've always been a proponent of all kinds of books. My house is filled with books. There's something about how a book can be used that is so much different than surfing the web to look up information. I know in this day and age where everything is at hand online that, you know, a lot of people, no illness for V-Stag, grats, man. A lot of people came away with the flu, it sounds like. A book is something that you can pick up at any time. You don't need to have power. You don't need to have an internet connection. You can pick that book up and peruse it. You can pick that book up and read it for comprehension. You can pick that book up and study it deeply at lots of different times over a long period of time. And our fish keeping skills kind of go up and plateau, and we stay at the same skill level for a while, and then we plateau, or maybe we go back down again because we quit keeping fish for a while. But something will start us back up again, and if you continue to hang on to your library of fish books, even though they are very old, stuff that you read through at one point in time that didn't even faze you, later on you may go back and reread that section again and suddenly glean a great deal of information out of that. You may suddenly learn more about the author. $4.99 racing. That's a good price, man. I think I got mine at half price books. So I think I paid like $5 or $6 for it too. I go to half price books. Well, I used to go a lot more than I do now because I don't have that much discretionary capital to spend anymore. But my wife and I both love going to half price books and wandering through the book aisles, and I always go first to the aquarium section. There's always very few books in it, or at least my experience is that there's very few. But I will, you know, visit several different half-price books, and every once in a while I catch a good book on sale there. And not only that, but I catch books that normally I might not spend, you know, $25 for, but for $4 or $5 it's worth a shot to buy them and see what they have to offer. And it's a very wide, it says hints and tips from a team of experts. And that's a really good thing to have a large group. It would be like if 15 or 20 of us got together and wrote a book about fish keeping hints, fish keeping tips. We would all have different things to offer. And from our experience, from our study, from our knowledge. Anyway, if you don't know it, I'm a huge proponent of buying books. I think that books offer a different type of access to knowledge than the internet does. The internet is so instantaneous and so available. You know, it's like the old they put in a drink machine at work, and they didn't charge any money for them. The drinks were for free, and they found the drinks sitting half drank all over the inside of the business, and people were throwing them away after taking a sip out of them. They didn't mean anything to them. But if they charged 15 cents for that same drink, people drank them because they had some value for them, because they just spent 15 cents or 50 cents or $1 or whatever it was. They drank the whole drink, or they drank most of the drink, what they wanted of it, because they had invested their own money. And the internet is all mostly free once you get on the internet, once you have the equipment to get on the internet. So it's free, and we don't, or my opinion is that we don't have the same value for information that we get on the internet as we do from books that we know had to go through some kind of checking before anybody would let them go out into the world. You know, some editor had to say, well, wait a minute, how do I check if this tip is really valid? How do I check if this isn't dangerous? You know, somebody's going to sue us because we let this tip out and it killed a bunch of fish. You know, there just isn't the same quality control on the internet that there is in a book, or that there should be in a book. So I think that's something that I've done those streams, Cobweb Cavern. I've done them before, but people don't really get engaged in that. I would prefer that as a video, you know, to maybe have people, and I don't have to do it, anybody can do it. To have a bunch of different people send in a little video clip of their tip for fish keeping, and then to put it out as a solid video so it can be edited, so people have a time frame for when they can give that tip. Racing says sometimes old school has valid info still today. Some tips and techniques are forgotten and work well today. And I couldn't agree more, Racing's. It's amazing to me how much information there really was out there 40 years ago. How many people did their homework, thought outside the box, tried different things, and had success. I mean, well, I'm glad you got your extra credit done for school, BB23. As long as there are new fish being introduced into our hobby, there will be people working tirelessly to breed those fish. And those people that are trying to breed new species will need to marshal, I mean, unless they just get lucky, and sometimes we do, but will need to marshal every bit of their creative thinking, every bit of their past fish keeping knowledge, every bit of their information on the locale where the fish were caught, all together, all at once, and get lucky and come up with something outside the box that manages to allow those fish to thrive and then breed. And it's always something. Some fish only breed on leaves that are hanging into the water from the margins. Some fish need a perfect sized rock to move around to breed on. Some fish need a perfect sized leaf to drag around and breed on. Some fish need a negative vertical slate to breed on, one that is leaning backwards or, up against the wall, and they breed on the back side of that slate. There are so many little tiny things, caves for plecos. There's just so many little things that can all add up to a fish breeding or a fish not breeding. And that has been going on since the 1800s, when people first started collecting and keeping fish. And it will be going on as long as there are new fish coming into the hobby from the wild. So it's older books show you what was the thinking at that time, or slightly ahead of that time, or slightly behind that time. That is written down in stone in a book. And the tips that you get from those older books can be just as or more valuable than the tips you get from people today, or books today, or the internet today. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree, Racing, that sometimes old school has valid information. Hey, Oddball Aquatics, welcome to the stream. All right, guys, we're rounding up at the top of the hour here. If you guys have any last-minute questions, if you have any last-minute thoughts, now's the time to get them in before we every time I get ready to close one of these live streams down, I think of when I was a kid. My mom would watch black and white TV in the little round tube. Shows you how old I am. Great big TV, but it was just a little, almost round screen. And she would watch Jack LaLanne and do exercises. And Jack LaLanne, if you ever look him up, look for his closing song with the rabbit ears with aluminum foil on them. And Jack LaLanne did a song that was, "It's time to leave you." How's the cat? Smokey is, I don't know if you can see her or not. There's Lizzie sitting up on top of the chair right there. She loves to sit up there. You can't really see her. She's just a black blob. But Smokey is spending most of his time outside now. He is a great hunter, and he loves to chase squirrels and birds and mice and bugs and whatever there is outside. And he complains vociferously to me when he wants out and I open the door and it's raining or cold and he can't go out, or he doesn't want to go out even though he wants to go out, because it's getting to be winter time and it's cold and it's nasty out there. I can't wait to see him in snow, to see what he does when he first goes out into ice and snow. But he's doing fine. He's quite the piece of work. Yeah, knock on wood, we all seem to be doing pretty well. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for spending an hour of your valuable Saturday time listening to this old man rant and rave. I hope there's been something of some value in what I've talked about. And once again, I would advise all of you, yeah, vote Republican. Let's remove that. And where's the ban button? Hide user on this channel. All right, guys, have a good weekend, and good luck with your fish. It's time to leave you.